Morning.
Morning.
That's all right.
Morning.
Good morning.
Mary Beth, thank you. Senator, sorry, we're live. We are streaming, so don't go crazy out there, okay, guys? No dancing or anything like that. There's Senator Eckhart. How are you, Addie?
Hey, I've been waiting in the waiting room.
Well, you know what? We do some business before we do that, so we get everything prepared because I have to clean my office and some other things. And you know, would you like to be on earlier, or what would you like?
No. I'm fine.
Okay.
Happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday.
Okay.
No comment, right?
The host muted me, and it wasn't me.
Oops.
You told us not to go crazy. We're live.
It was exciting to watch from afar the HCBU bill signing and see Dr. Anderson on the front page of the Baltimore Sun. So
Great.
I didn't know if you were up for that, but that was looked like that was a fine ceremony. The secretary.
Yes, thank you, Senator. To all those of you who voted for the bill, thank you. For
You're
those who
welcome.
didn't, you know,
I think it was unanimous.
thank you. No,
Yeah.
may have been unanimous in the Senate.
Oh. Good morning, Steve.
The good news is it's as the song says, long time coming. Thank you all. Mr. Secretary, good morning. Greetings from the Cardinals.
Hey, good morning, Mr. Secretary. Is it warmer on the Eastern Shore than it is over here?
Always warmer on the Eastern Shore.
Mr. Secretary, I'm wearing my ag pin.
Good. Happy Maryland Ag Day.
That's
There
right.
you go. Good one.
Oh, I like Cassie's background. That's awesome.
I'm standing in a cornfield this morning.
Woo-hoo.
I didn't know you went to Florida, Cassie.
So what are you planting, Joe?
Days like this, we're gonna start planting rice.
I hear you.
Yeah. Every time it starts drying off, we get more rain.
So are we behind in the planning schedule?
Not really, because we're still on the calendar, so to speak.
Okay.
We planted about 10 acres of sweet corn, about 10 acres of sunflowers. So those are in, but we're waiting on some other stuff.
Yeah, hear you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it seems to be that 9 o'clock hour. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
United States of America.
and to the
And to the
republic
republic
which
for which it
stands
stands, one
nation under
under
God,
God,
indivisible.
indivisible, with
liberty
liberty
and
and
justice for all.
justice for all.
Senator Caruso, will you lead us in prayer, please?
I would be happy to. I was reading from Psalms this morning, and I think it would be appropriate. I don't think we all are sometimes appreciative of everything that we have, all of our blessings in life. So this is Psalm 136, and it says, "Give thanks to the Lord because he is good. His love is eternal. Give thanks to the greatest of all gods. His love is eternal. Give thanks to the mightiest of all lords. His love is eternal." And I'd like you to join me in just a special Thanksgiving prayer for our farmers and our farm families and all those who contribute to the success of the farm industry overall in Maryland. And happy Maryland Day, and we ask for God's continue blessings on our farm families. And if we can all say together, amen.
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 All right. Well, good morning, everyone. If I could do a little bit of housekeeping real quick. Remember to mute yourselves, if you will, to keep the noise from the background. The other thing is, I think we have a quorum as I was looking around. I need a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second. Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, I believe our congressman is in the building. Congressman Harris, are you with us? I saw him entering. Yes. Congressman, are you there? I see him.
Yeah, let me figure out how to get this. There we go.
There you are. Well, welcome, sir. You have the stage and we're happy to have you here. So,
Well, thank you very much. Let me go ahead and just give you an update on some issues that are happening at the federal level that affect the first congressional district, and then if we'll open it up to any questions you have. So look, it's obviously been a difficult year. With the lockdowns from COVID, they've affected a lot of different industries on the Eastern Shore. You know, we have a lot of small businesses particularly hard affected. Obviously, the tourism industry particularly hard affected, and so we've got to come out of that, and hopefully we reopen very quickly as the vaccine penetration continues to improve and we reach herd immunity, I think, before summer. So although we'll always have a small simmering amount of COVID present in the population, we're not going to see the spikes that we've seen up until now. So we keep our fingers crossed. Hopefully, a lot of our economy gets back to normal. But there are issues that are specific. There are issues that are very specific needs of the district, such as and I don't know. Am I cutting in and out here?
no, we actually had somebody didn't mute, so I just muted them. We're fine. Keep going.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. So there's some issues that are specific, very federally related. So first of all, the H-2B visa issue, obviously important for seafood processing and tourism industry. We had the last administration put a delay on non-essential H-2B visas, essential being defined as having to do with food processing mostly, until March 31st. We had the first round of visas for this coming year for the spring season, which is actually the second half of the fiscal year, but the spring season. And so, as you know, some seafood processors didn't get their visas. Some of the tourism industries weren't in the first cut. But we're working with the administration across the aisle to try to get the administration, especially the departments of labor and the Department of State, to agree, and Homeland Security, to agree to temporarily increase the number of the quota of visas as they are allowed to do under law. You know, things that we put in the appropriations bill that allows them to adjust those visas upward temporarily if they can demonstrate a need. We're still waiting to hear back from the administration if they're going to do that. Hopefully, if they do it quickly after the March 31st moratorium ends, then we can get more H-2B visas. We have a couple of issues with regards to the Bay. We have on the snakehead issue, we are beginning to see the federal funding coming through again. To remind everyone, I was able to have the snakehead as only the second invasive species designated for funding at the federal level. The Asian carp, the carp up in the Chicago River was the first species. The snakehead is the second one. Hopefully, we'll get some funds to control snakeheads. You know, as I go out through the district, as you're hearing, this is really wreaking havoc on some of the native fish population, and we have to get it under control. Similarly, we have the issue with the blue catfish. We were able to get some. I was able to insert some language into the appropriations bill last year that would direct the U.S. Department of Agriculture to figure out to actually devote some money to deal with some of the problems with the inspection of the processing of blue catfish. Obviously, it could be a commercially viable fishing crop, but only if you're going to have processors who can process it. and adding USDA as a processor specifically, and those who don't know, I mean, the catfish is the only designated type of fish that has to be inspected by the USDA. Otherwise it's FDA inspection, which is deemed inspected under state inspection standards mostly. But we're working with the USDA. I think we might be able to get a workaround so that we may be able to tackle the blue catfish problem pretty soon. With regards to oyster restoration, obviously the last Maryland tributary, the Tread Avon, the contract has been let by the Army Corps of Engineers to bring in rock from Florida, I believe. Unfortunately, the watermen had requested that natural substrates, so that shells be used from man-of-war shoals if possible. For reasons that we haven't been able to determine, the Army Corps just decided not to do that. They claimed that they couldn't get them from man-of-war shoals, or that even oyster shell substrate, other shell substrate wouldn't be used. And the fishermen are upset with it, but this is the last tributary, the last project. This won't be an issue going forward. Virginia still has 2 tributaries, and they'll be dealt with that. With regards to dredging, there are multiple small dredging projects in the district that the Army Corps of Engineers is not on their schedule. They did dredge the Wycomico River. Obviously, the Baltimore Harbor continually dredged. But other than that, small dredging projects, they are willing to assist with us. If we have smaller dredging projects, if the states and counties or local jurisdictions could come up with some of the funding to dredge, they are willing to let us know when the Army Corps contracted dredges are in the area to greatly lessen the cost of dredging. Because if a dredge is in the area, if we just, as the dredge passes by these tributaries or goes down to the bay from the Baltimore Harbor, then it reduces the cost greatly of the dredging project. So hopefully we can get some of these done, again, with state and local assistance, with the Army Corps, basically letting us know when these dredges are in the area. Slaughter Creek, we know the Mid-Bay Islands as a port spoils dredge site. Dredge spoil site is going to come online within a few years. The Army Corps is probably going to let that contract out next year if the appropriations process goes properly in the federally. And when that occurs, I would like to see the base for those islands, the support base for those islands, be on the eastern shore, not the western shore. To do that, we do need Slaughter Creek dredged. It's not a large dredging project. We already have site for the spoils. The Department of Natural Resources Secretary Hadaway has said that they will pay for the plan of they'll determine how much dredging needs to be done, and hopefully we can get the dredging done before those contracts are awarded or announced, so that companies realize that we have an Eastern Shore location much closer to those Mid-Bay Islands. And it would be a great help to the midshore economy if we could base that dredging project out. The dredge spoil project, the Mid-Bay Islands out of the Eastern Shore, out of Slaughter Creek. Finally, I'm just trying to think if there are any other major issues in terms of agriculture. The good news is that corn and soybean prices are about 50% higher than they were a year ago. I think the farmers, if that's sustained, and if China continues to be a major buyer of our American grain products, our farmers should have a very, very good year. I will say that one thing that has to be on the radar screen of the farmers is that, as we know, we finalized the Trump administration finalized a Waters of the U.S. rule last year that was very favorable. I think it was very reasonable. It clearly defined what the waters of the U.S. were in terms of Army Corps of Engineer oversight of any projects in one of these waters of the U.S. areas. As you know, the controversy was that although the Clean Water Act uses the term navigable waters, previous administrations had interpreted navigable waters to include things like seasonal drainage ditches. This would have a horrendous impact on farms, because the Army Corps of Engineers would oversee every major change you'd have. Anything you'd do to one of those drainage ditches, you'd have to get Army Corps of Engineer approval. So the last administration, I think, clarified the rule. I think they made it very common sense, but there's already pressure in Washington to reverse the rule, to start a new rulemaking process and bring that rule back to the previous interpretation, which we think would be very harmful to our farmers. So with that, I'm more than happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Thank you, Congressman. I think first up, we have Delegate Jay Jacobs.
Thank you. Good morning, Congressman. Good to hear you this morning. And you had an action-packed delivery there. A lot of information. But I wanted to touch base with you on the blue cat issue. We had a major processor in Jessup, from my understanding, is getting out because of excessive USDA regulations. Are you familiar with that?
Yes. So the only processor was in fact in Jessup, the only commercial processor. We don't know that they're going to get out, but my staff tells me that there's going to be an announcement imminently from USDA dealing in a favorable way. That's a favorable announcement in terms of what we've asked USDA to do. I actually asked the Secretary Perdue last year because I believe that under the COVID Emergency Authority, Federal COVID Emergency Authority, he actually probably, the department probably has the ability to create temporary special regulations because catfish are a food under the emergency authority. The federal government could suspend some of the regulations or temporarily change some of them. I don't know if that's what's coming up, but there will be an announcement imminently. I'm well aware of the issue with USDA. As you know, this regulation was put in place by the Mississippi catfish farmers in order to make foreign delivery of catfish more difficult, especially from farms in the Far East, especially catfish farms in the Far East. Again, we got caught up in that net. The blue catfish, because it's an invasive species, because it is I should say a non-native species. I think that we're going to keep on trying to have some success. We're going to try a carve out again, a Chesapeake Bay carve out to the inspection potentially. But again, stay tuned. My staff tells me there's going to be some news coming from the USDA soon on blue catfish.
That's good. And I'm glad to hear you're on top of that because it was really disheartening to hear one of the big processor was going to get out due to the regulations. But I'll keep in touch with your staff because I know a few things that I don't want to get involved in right now because we're a limited time frame. And the only other comment I wanted to make was that the shell issue with Man o' War Shoal is really hung up with Board of Public Works. They never voted, to finance the operation. And I understand that's probably the biggest obstacle right now is that if they had the majority vote that we possibly could have moved forward with that. So, hope I don't know if that's going to change or not, but I know the watermen are very concerned with what kind of rock gets put in these places. We're dealing with Minokan is coming up, and there's a huge concern about the use of foreign substrate. And I know your staff and the other federal staff members on the call this morning are very much aware of that, but that's something that's very concerning that we don't want to repeat the mistakes that were made in Harris Creek. So thank you very much for being there this morning, and I'll be talking with you on the trail.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next up, we have Delegate Hartman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Congressman. Good to see you. Thanks for touching on the visa issue. Could you elaborate on the J1? In the last 24 hours, I received 2 emails from employers in Ocean City. One saying they need 200 workers, they have 50, and another just saying that people, apply and never follow up, just with the unemployment situation being handed out so freely that they're fearing a repeat of last year as far as being able to attract and obtain employees.
Sure. So, Delegate, you bring up an important point. As you know, I've opposed the fairly large federal supplements for unemployment subsidies. Look, I think we should make people whole, but the fact of the matter is, even at the $300 a week additional federal level, 50% of the people receiving unemployment will actually receive more unemployment for not working than actually going back to work. 50%. At the old level of $600 per week, it was actually 80 to 85%. As again, I'm disappointed that we extended it through the summer months, because I am fairly convinced that with herd immunity, we are going to have a much better summer than last year. We'll have the ability of employers to begin going back to, I think, near normal levels of employment. But the hang up is going to be is finding workers who have just got a $1,400 stimulus check. They got $1,400 stimulus checks for their children. They're getting, more pay on unemployment than when they were employed. They're not going to come back. They're just not going to come back to work. I mean, that's the bottom line. It's a simple economic decision. So that means we're even more dependent upon temporary foreign workers, whether they're under the J-1 visa program or the H-2B visa program. So the J-1 visa program was also put on a moratorium until March 31st, but the moratorium's lifted. The employers, and I met a couple of employers from Ocean City just 2 days ago who mentioned the issue to me. They're afraid that even if you lift it March 31st, it's just not enough time to get people in that pipeline to get them here by Memorial Day for the opening of the summer season. Look, that's the best we're going to do. I do believe the J-1 program will remain intact. We're not hearing from the new administration the same that we heard from the last administration, which is a reticence to continue the J-1 program as it exists. So I think the program's going to continue, but again, things are delayed till after next week.
So you think that we will see them? It may vary as far as what countries, because the time frame they'll be allowed in will probably be June sometime before we start seeing them arrive here.
That's right. So the practical effect should be that they'll be available, but they won't be available as early as they've been because of that moratorium. Now, look, we approached the administration in February, the new administration, to say, look, it was an executive order, lift the executive order. I mean, the new administration could have done that. They chose not to. I don't know why, but they chose not to. They chose to leave the moratorium in place until March 31st. As you know, these issues always involve going head to head a lot of times with the unions. The unions don't like temporary workers of any kind coming in, whether it's H-2B or J-1 visas. So I guess the compromise was leave the moratorium in place. But I think past March 31st, I think we're going to be in business as usual as the J-1 program and the H-2B program. The difference being, of course, the J-1 visas are not limited there's no quota number. Whereas with the H-2B, we're still stuck with the 66,000 person a year quota, which is woefully inadequate, especially if our economy, gets going again.
Thanks for the answer, and thanks for all your good work. Appreciate it. Take care.
Yeah, Congressman, I have a quick question for you on the dollars and cents. I was with a group the other day and we were talking about all this money that the federal government's throwing in. We were talking about all the money that Maryland's had. Our budget just came out. And I guess I try to caution people on down the road a little bit. Can you maybe speak a little bit towards what this influx will do to us as far as taxes, as far as inflation, whatever? Or is that too broad?
Sure. Well, no, it's a broad topic. I don't mind mentioning it. My philosophy is, there's no such thing as free money. This, by the way, the $1.9 trillion bill actually changed last week to a $2.0 trillion bill because the Congress and I think the Senate just approved it. The Senate just approved it yesterday. Actually, because so much money was spent, there actually were automatic sequesters built into the previous law that actually would reduce the spending by about $100 billion. The $1.9 trillion price tag accounted for that $100 billion being returned. With 1 hour debate, the House passed a bill that said, no, we're gonna remove those sequesters, adding another $100 billion to the cost of that bill. And now, of course, there's a $3 trillion bill being tossed about. To put it in perspective, when I came to Congress 10 years ago, the federal debt was $15 billion. 15 trillion. What am I saying? 15 trillion. It is now 31 trillion. If we pass that infrastructure bill, it will be 34 trillion. At a nominal interest rate, let's say that we go back to traditional interest rates on federal debt of 4%, that would be $1.2 trillion in debt repayment every year, just interest on our debt. To put that in perspective, that's the entire size of our discretionary budget at the federal government. Whereas the debt makes up only $200 billion of our discretionary budget. I'm sorry, of the mandatory budget, but only 1/6 of what would be our discretionary budget. If we go to traditional interest rates, 4%, not the interest rates of the early 80s, but interest rates of 4%, our entire discretionary budget would be offset just by our increased debt load. It's not sustainable. I know, Delegate, you're a business person. You know that's not sustainable. So something has to give. And what has to give is you either have to have a tremendously large increase in taxes, because again, we only raise about $3.5 trillion in taxes a year. To raise another 1.2 trillion to pay the debt load would be a 33% increase in federal taxation rates. Not sustainable. The only other option is you inflate your way out of it. There's some people, that include me, that believe that in the end, the government will likely, just like the government in Greece and Italy have to do, they have to inflate their way out of their budget debts. It's just not sustainable. Part of my disappointment is that the American public basically have been sold a bill of goods that we can do this, that, we needed to pass a $2 trillion CARES Relief Act, again, where 90% of the money did not go into health-related matters. And now we're going to be ready to pass a $3 trillion bill. And look, everybody wants new roads. Everybody wants new bridges. Everybody wants, elements of this infrastructure bill that should be considered probably within the next 2 months. But we have to keep our eyes on what the downstream effect is. I do believe, because the administration, as part of that relief bill, is already talking about a corporate tax increase. And again, I hope the American public realizes that, when you tax corporations in America, they leave the country. When they leave the country, jobs leave. And these are middle-class jobs. These are the jobs that leave. So a corporate tax increase is very rapidly reflected into a decline in median family income. Exactly the opposite of what we saw in the Trump administration. When corporate taxes were cut, median family income actually went up because jobs came back to America, they stayed in America, inversion stopped, things like that. It's delegates, it's just very, very concerning to me.
I agree with you. I think I don't see any more questions, but I think we're about out of time. But Congressman, as always, we appreciate you being here. We appreciate all our federal leaders coming in to have a brief conversation with us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I just want to say, I see Secretary Bartenfelder is on the call. Joe, good to see you. Again, anything we can do, to make sure our agriculture economy keeps going on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. I also see the Chicken Association is on the Zoom. Again, anything we can do to make sure that, especially as we look at the parts of the Green New Deal that's going to come out in the infrastructure, I'm afraid that some of that may have a bad repercussions on our agriculture industry or on the poultry industry, which of course are the lifebloods of the economy on the Eastern Shore. So thank you all very much for having me on the delegation meeting today.
Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you,
And now, ladies and gentlemen, we have our own Secretary of Ag, Joe Bartenfelder, and Cassie Sharp. Welcome.
Thank you, and good morning to everybody. It's a little different this year than other years, but I do look forward to seeing everybody in person. As I said earlier, I don't know if everybody was on then, but happy Maryland Ag Week. And I'm going to throw this little thank you out because Senator Carrozza in her prayer mentioned thanks to Maryland farmers and ag producers. And I just want to follow up on that by saying because of our farmers and the folks in the ag industry and our watermen and the folks all involved in the seafood industry, we were able to keep our food chain open basically without any interruption here in Maryland during this pandemic. And it was because of them and their resiliency that we're able to do that. On Tuesday, this past Tuesday, for Maryland Ag Week, I was able to join a panel for a discussion with students at Hereford High School. A lot of FFA members, 4-Hers. It was a great exchange. There were a lot of great questions coming from the students and a lot of interest in what the future could be for job opportunities for them in the ag industry. So I thought that was very productive, and I look forward to doing that again in person with them. Speaking of COVID-19 and our response, we work closely with the governor's office, the health department, and MEMA early on to ensure that we provided guidance and the resources needed to ensure that not only the food chain supply stayed open, but also it was a safe food supply and provide safety for the workers in the industry. And we also worked with the governor to create the Maryland Farmer COVID-19 Relief Program, and that provided at least some financial relief to farmers and producers. And I'm going to tell you exactly what those figures were. The program made direct payments of $1,000 per house to contract poultry growers, and they had not yet been eligible for federal assistance through the earlier program. An additional payment of $1,500 per house was available for the growers whose flocks were depopped due to the COVID-19 related disruptions. There was one company that had to do that. The program also provided 15% bonus payments to any Maryland farmer who had received assistance from the USDA's Coronavirus Food Assistance Program, which was CFAP 1. Now, of our 614 poultry growers in Maryland who were eligible for the program, our department made payments to 545 growers for a total of $1.98 million. CFAP 1 bonus payments were made to 817 farmers for a total of $2.86 million. And we still stay in close contact with not only our growers, but the representatives of the industry here on the shore. We have 5 different companies with growers spread from the lower shore to the upper shore. Last month, I joined the governor for his annual meeting with the board of directors of the Maryland Farm Bureau, and we talked about some of the interests that they had. And of course, as we all know, the phosphorus management tool and the implementation as we move forward was of great interest. It moves forward on July 1st, 2021, and we're working on a number of initiatives to provide support for farmers. The biggest in this includes the addition of cost share support for manure storage structures on receiving farms. And when I say receiving farms, I'm talking about farms who are not growing poultry, have the ability to receive the poultry manure to be able to spread on their operations. This is a real important step to be able to move it from the high areas of concentration to other places. We also continue our outreach efforts in encouraging more eligible farmers to use the manure for crop production and participate in the Maryland Manure Transport Program, which I'm thankful that you all give such great support. One of the other important things that we're doing too is we've already initiated a long-awaited study with the University of Maryland, the field proof and completely test out the phosphorus management tool. Take a 3 or 4 year period to complete, but it's something that's very needed and should be done. It's already underway. Also on March 8th, our department announced that it's bringing back its pesticide disposal program, which was last run in 2011. And this program will provide farmers an opportunity to safely dispose of any unwanted or unusable pesticide products. You know that there's speculation that it could have been a result of a bill which was before the legislature down there, but it was not. We were working on this for a while and could have been announced earlier, but sometimes the wheels of progress move a little slower than anticipated. But anyway, it's March 8th. It's up and going, and you know we're thankful for that. It's going to be a relief to farmers, and I think it's going to help protect the environment too. Delegate Jacobs may have some interest in blue catfish. I'm not sure. Sometimes he brings that topic up. But our staff has reached more than 90,000 consumers with promotional events and samplings with chefs since 2019. I don't know how we measure impressions, but it says we've had 13 million impressions on this. And just to give you an idea, in 2013, the blue catfish harvest in Maryland was worth $164,000. In 2019, that same harvest was 1.1 million and took more than 2 million pounds of blue cat out of the bay. And we did lose one of our processors up there in Jessup and Gretchenell, but we still do have JJ McDonald and Reliant in business, and hopefully, they'll be able to be successful. This time, you mentioned Cassie Shirk earlier, but we're also joined by our Deputy Secretary, Julie Oberg. But I'm going to turn it over to Cassie right now so she can speak a little bit about some of the legislative priorities that she's been working on. And turning it over to Cassie, I just want to tell you that I think she's just done a tremendous job for our department. She's done a tremendous job for Maryland agriculture, and I think she stays in great communication with all of you. If I'm mistaken about that, let me know. But she does a really great job.
Thank you. And I didn't pay him to say that this morning. So it was really nice to see several of you yesterday at the Rural Maryland Council's Maryland Day little grab and go lunch. It's been obviously a session like we've never seen before. And I see everybody via Zoom all the time, but it was really nice to get to see some of you and talk to you in person yesterday. As Joe said, we do have a few priorities this session. We have two departmental bills, Senate Bill 344, which would allow the department to provide up to 100% state funding, which is currently limited at 87.5% for the implementation of certain high priority conservation practices to help us meet our WIP goals. And then we have Senate Bill 352, which is a cleanup bill, and it repeals the multiflora rose management law. We have a weed control program that works with growers who are having issues with multiflora rose. And if you, those bills have already passed through the Senate. We had hearings, I think the second or third day of session. And if you were on the Environment and Transportation Committee, then you know we had these bill hearings earlier this week. Let's see here. Even though we're in a virtual session, MDA is still working as hard as ever with our stakeholders. A lot of our partners are on this call this morning. I see Rural Maryland Council, and I know DCA is on this call, and Steve McHenry and Farm Bureau. And we're really working together to make sure that we're supporting and promoting legislation that benefits the industry. So for example, we're very supportive of House Bill 752, Senate Bill 539. It's a food donation tax credit pilot program extension. That program is set to sunset this year, and this bill would extend the sunset. And I'm also proud to say that with the help of not only our ag stakeholders that are on this call, but also several members of this delegation, that we've been able to prevent a few bills that would have had a negative impact on the agriculture industry, including House Bill 249, which would have prohibited growing hemp on farms adjacent to residences, and House Bill 472, which would have prohibited the use of glyphosate, also known as more commonly known as Roundup, in the state starting in October of 2022. So those are just a few things that I wanted to mention. I think, every year we tell you that any sort of public comment the department has submitted on bills can all be found on our website. We have a 2021 legislation page, and all of our letters of information, letters of support, letters of concern are all on there. And just finally, to close things out, I wanted to say that as always, if you or your staff or your constituents are reaching out and have questions about agriculture, you can always feel free to give me a call, and I'm happy to help you with those things.
Thank you.
Delegate Arntz, I don't know if Julie would like to add anything or not, our Deputy Secretary who's on.
Julie, I apologize for missing you in the announcement, but do you have any comments you'd like to share? Thank you.
No problem. I just echo Cassie's comments that we're here as a resource. So if there's anything that we can help you or your constituents, please let us know. And in the interest of time, I don't have anything to offer. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have a question. Delegate Jacobs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Secretary Bartenfelder, we recently had a decision by a Montgomery County judge on affecting poultry, potentially. Is there any, is Department of Ag going to get involved in anything that may change that decision?
Well, I mean, I think right now that MDE is looking at doing an appeal with it through the AG.
Okay. I was hoping so. I just want.
I don't want to speak on their behalf, but
No, that's all right. I just wanted to verify a few things. Thank you.
Any other questions for the secretary or staff?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead.
Delegate Adams.
I know you are.
Mr. Secretary, Mr. Secretary, I couldn't let the opportunity go by and say thank you for allowing me to glean kale last fall. I had never gleaned kale. I was with Senator Eckhart.
you just blew it. You were there gleaning with us and you did a good job, but you just said kale and it was collards.
Oh, collards. I know. Well,
that means that the whole lesson, you didn't get it.
Senator, back to the drawing board, right? I got to go back now and do it all over again.
It was collards, but you did a good job.
I want to take a minute and just thank Delmarva Chicken Association and Maryland Farm Bureau, and of course your department. I've been on the work group for House Bill 581, the Essential Workers Bill, and we're dealing with this in subcommittee. And I thought I would just articulate my thanks to the associations that support farming and the industry at large, because much of what has helped me carry conversation in that format has been direct conversations about how that sort of bill would impact farming and poultry and just our way of life at large on the Eastern Shore. I'm reminded how important poultry is the minute I was elected in 2014, and watching Purdue, Amick, Mount Air, all these companies stand and deliver during the most difficult time that I can think of in my lifetime. Watching our grocery stores struggle to provide protein and food for citizens in an uncertain time. Our industries stood and delivered, and I thought I would make that comment and thank you and certainly the Hogan administration for your leadership and making sure that food's available and maintaining a strong posture for the industry as we try to resolve some difficult issues in the General Assembly this year. And I thought I would just issue that word of thanks to you as the leader of this for the administration.
Well, thank you, Delegate Adams. And when you said about the way the industry stepped up, especially early on when we were experiencing a disruption, not in the food chain, but in the distribution chain. And that's when really there were some shortages that we felt. Both Purdue and Mount Air really stepped up to the plate to deliver large donations to needy communities. And when I say large donations, I'm talking about where I was there with them and they actually delivered tractor trailers of product. So thanks for mentioning that. We really appreciate it.
All right, Secretary, I don't see many more questions. I would like to make a quick comment also. We appreciate all the work you do for us, especially in Eastern Shore, being that we're a big farm community. And I marvel sometimes at how quickly our General Assembly forgets that we need to eat. And we put bills in to kind of circumvent that sometimes. And I appreciate we need some other things also, but the food thing kind of works for a guy my size. So I appreciate all you do.
I can relate to that.
All right, with that, Mr. Secretary, Cassie and Julie, we really appreciate it. And thank you very much for your time. And we'll hopefully see you next year, kind of like
Thank you.
the format.
Or before. Thanks.
Okay. All right. At this moment, at this time, I guess we would like to entertain some comments from our federal liaisons. Who would like to go first?
I don't have anything to update you on this week, but I do want to commend you, Mr. Chair, and your staff on organizing these meetings. It has been extremely efficient. The information has been received timely following the meetings, which we really appreciate getting that information as well so that the senators are informed of what's going on in our district. So thank you.
You know,
Great
Melissa,
session, guys.
Melissa, I always appreciate that, but it was all me. It had nothing.
Sure, Marty had nothing to do with it.
Actually, I have probably the finest staff in Annapolis, in my opinion. But
Thank you.
Ms. Cradaville.
Yeah, I would second what Melissa's comment. Your staff certainly adjusted, and we certainly appreciate it. I don't have anything to add federally, as we heard from the congressman, and you all certainly know where to find us. We're here and willing and able to answer any questions that you have. So thank you.
We appreciate that, and thank you very much for the comments. I will share them. I'm sure they. Thank you. Any other comments for the good of the order?
I would be, Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
Chair.
Mr. Arns.
I'd be happy to third the comments from Melissa and Kim about the performance of your group this year. Just a couple of things. Congressman, obviously covered everything really, really well. But I do want to mention quickly for anybody that hears about it here in the 1st Congressional District, the Congressman runs an annual high school arts competition, which is just starting. So if you have an opportunity, please encourage anyone you know in the schools that would like to participate in that to go ahead and think about creating a piece of art to submit. And then the only other comment I would have in regards to FEMA, this is really kind of a constituent flood insurance issue. A lot of flood insurance policies are coming due, and I just wanted to make the point that FEMA has taken a hard line on renewals of their flood insurance policies. So make sure people get their premiums in and paid if you hear about that, because if they don't get their premium in time, they'll let those policies lapse, and we don't want that to happen. And that's it.
All right, Mike, thank you very much. I guess this is our last meeting for the year. We'll appreciate next year any comments, who wants to get involved, any suggestions or what have you. But I know we all have to get the session pretty quickly.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Thank you. I do want to thank you and Marty. I want to thank you for the access on behalf of President Anderson. I want to thank you for all of your votes, your support, your work with the natural gas, all the things that have made a difference for us. And respectfully, in closing, I want to remind you about April 30th. We have our hard hat celebration to show you the progress of the pharmacy building. I hope you all can attend. I'm not quite sure if it's going to be 11 o'clock or 2 o'clock. That's still in the bubble, but please keep an eye on your emails, and anybody reach out to me. Thank you so much. Have a good, healthy last 2 weeks, and very grateful.
Hey, Steve, I do have one comment, if it's okay.
Go ahead, Delegate Grace.
Scott Warner, who's on the call, I see, has actually reached out to Dr. Scott at EAS GRC and asked them if they would be willing to do sort of an independent redistricting study. The reason why is because after the last census, the Eastern Shore as a whole really didn't have a whole lot of input in drawing those district lines. And Salisbury University and EAS GRC, they have the technology there. And much of the data already in place where, we can have, and all we're asking for, at least from the Eastern Shore perspective, is just a fair assessment and fair district lines, compact in nature, with geographic and racial diversity, all those things that are important to us. But we think that if we can draw these new district lines in a much more fair way than they are now, we think we can, I think most of us can agree that we can probably grow our Eastern Shore delegation. And that's sort of what our hope is. And Scott, I don't know if you want to chime in or not, but I think that's great news.
Scott, do you have anything to add?
Delegate Grace reached out and we put him in touch with Dr. Michael Scott, and we'd be more than happy to do whatever you would like to do, and we'll listen to you for the lead. But there's plenty of information I relayed to Delegate Grace that would be very, very helpful to the delegation.
Okay.
Thank you, Delegate Grace, for taking the lead.
Okay. Delegate Grace, is there something you'd like us as a delegation to do?
Not at this point. Some point maybe over the interim. I don't know if Dr. Scott needs any information from us, a letter of support request or anything along those lines. I don't know that he does. I think they can just do that on their own, but we, we'll reach out to the delegation if they need anything.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you. It's been a great year, and I do applaud the staff because this has been a wonderful venue for us. Good luck. We'll talk to you next year. If any of you have any comments or questions, please don't hesitate to email us or call. Thank you.